the door, and they finally kicked it through.
The Inside LAFC podcast is going through a metamorphosis, so to speak. Hello, everyone. Inside LAFC, the partnership is back. Just like back in the heyday in the 1980s when WWF would have these two wrestlers, they would be the best of friends like Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. Then they'd break up, and then one day they'd come back together again. That day has arrived. The band is back together. Vince LaRosa, Max Bredos, the MVP podcast, part of the Inside LAFC empire. Could you believe we're seated here, ready to talk about LAFC with the season just around the corner?
I can because I put this all together.
You
Just
did
myself. I looped this all
I
together.
thought you were
with
like
a
in a
lot of
deep
help
freeze.
from my 110 football family, from Jason, from Ben, who's over there. We're in a studio, a great, fantastic 110 football fan cave studio.
People were always saying we'd love to see more Max on this pod because it was an audio pod, and I go, you probably wouldn't because I did that in a robe, usually with my hair messy, and when my hair hair is messy.
Just if we laugh randomly, we have Jason, our producer, in our ear, and he's just
no one wants to see
bagging
that
on us the whole time.
But we had you in a cryogenic chamber, and now we pulled you back out for the pod for this because we knew this new release with 110 football, and you can tell us what's going on with 110 football. It's incredible. I'm really excited. The folks here are fantastic. They believe in this club. They believe in this league, and this is why we're here. And this is a show that we feel this is where we're going to talk football. We'll talk about the club because we know people want it. We have an incredible product. We just want to talk more about it. And 110 football, thank you to everyone involved, is allowing that to happen.
Yeah, not to harp on it, I don't like your wrestler reference. I think of it more
You
as like,
you looked at disgust.
yeah, because I actually driving up here thought about it. I was like, what is it like? I was like, Van Halen, when David Lee Roth left, they brought in Sammy Hagar, and they still did well. Luckily, you didn't have to go through a Gary Sharon phase, but we brought back David Lee Roth, myself.
I seen a couple concerts with that, so it worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
But no more Eddie, unfortunately. So I was a really sore subject for you to bring Van Halen. It's too soon for a Van Halen reference.
Well, I guess your reference did work because the spandex and David Lee Roth.
The only way it doesn't work is we never disliked each other at any point. Really?
Oh, yeah. Well, what?
No way.
Okay, but to on the real, yes, while I was gone, the number one thing people ask me about is not what's Carlos Vela like? Is Latif Blessing really a great dancer? It was, what was it like to work with Max all the time? And too many people to thank, all the ones that said they missed me on the podcast. So thank you, 110 Football, for bringing me into their show, but also now allowing us to branch out and do our show and do a video component in a fantastic studio with cool microphones and the whole.
And you shouldn't have to say that because I wanted to say that because it is important for you to hear again what we went through when I did the podcast, and I carried that on a singular basis, had great guests. The numbers never hit it when we were together. Granted, we had a pandemic, but clearly this partnership works a lot.
You're blaming the pandemic on me.
No, clearly, the pandemic obviously is going to change, and we're heading towards season, but the groove we were hitting was fantastic, and I know we had it earmarked to come back, and people said, where's Vince? I felt empty. A lot of people want the whole spotlight. I usually am one of those people, but in this case, I'm happy to share it, and I'm so excited because no one knows more about the club than you, and I even include myself with that because you've created those relationships. It takes a lot of time. So, Vince, fantastic. Stay out of it, Carapesi. It's because Vince deserves it. He's having his moment. Our producer, Jason.
I do know too much about the team. It probably ruins my personal life. If anybody's wondering how the podcast is going to change, you just witnessed it right now. We're going to ramble on in the beginning because that's what we do. Max, you've been very tight in the beginning of your podcast where you really want to put out the news and get to your guests. No more, my friend.
Okay.
It's going to be music references, wrestlers, whatever else. Dune. We're going to talk about Dune a lot.
Can we talk a little bit about how MLS clubs did in the CONCACAF Champions League? Oh, here's a question for you.
I don't know. Is that on? I actually did create a rundown to be somewhat professional.
All right, we'll talk about that later. But we're optimistic. But I want to talk about that, and we'll talk about it later, about how LAFC fans, we were so close to be. Everyone wants to be the first. And I spoke to John Thornton at the game. He goes, everyone wants to be the first. We're all happy for the league if some other team makes it. But
not really.
How do you handle that if that comes there, knowing how close we got?
You complain that you should be in it because somehow Atlanta's in it from the Open Cup. I mean, let's be realistic.
That's where the issue. That you could have flipped a coin and determined who would be in there.
Yeah, I mean, what about the team that went to the final and had the best chance and continues to have the best chance with the depth in their lineup? Maybe you send LAFC. I mean, I don't.
That was weird, huh? I mean, you're like going, look, let's try and win this. They came this close. Let's give them another shot.
look, realistically, the Open Cup, this is their only way to continue to stay relevant. I like the Open Cup. But if they lose that spot this year, you could see them never getting it back. So it makes sense why, if you think about it.
I think there's improvement. We'll get into that a little bit later. We'll also talk about the final preseason game, which more than anything else saw the return of fans, a smattering. But you got to take your first step before you start running. We've heard it from the state of California. June is a date where they say full return, whatever that means, but those two words suggest close to a full house. I don't know if it's a full house. They said full return, back to normal. Not back to normal. Nothing's going to be back to normal. But you're going to see this gradual progression, but this was a chance to see how it looked with a few fans there. It was great to hear the 6 or 8 guys in the North End singing Jump for LA Football Club.
That was my
safe
favorite
distance.
part.
Oh, I looked at it and I was just, that feels so good.
And not just them singing the songs. They were talking some trash, and they were fantastic. They were doing olays. Last year, look, I love Al Wright, and I love the work that they did to make an atmosphere for those players with an empty stadium. It was a little weird. But I loved having just the little bit of silence to where I could literally hear every trash talk that somebody from the crowd was saying. I mean, I think Matt Polster had his family there because he scored a goal. I mean, cherish that. That's not going to happen much. But
wow. Did not expect
a
a shot across the bow from Matt Polster this early.
Come at me, Polster. He had a cheering section who was very happy for him. But as LAFC clawed their way into the game, as we'll talk about, I'm not going to curse. The trash talking.
Bruce Arena did all the cursing because he was the one voice I heard the most, just ripping this referee, which was hilarious.
Yeah.
I love it. And Bruce Arena spends a lot of time at that stadium, or he did, because his son was part of the staff. And
do you do a Bruce impression?
I'd rather leave. Some guys are so much better than me, and Bruce has been so wonderful for me over the years. When I went to ESPN, because Bruce doesn't say anything. We're going off on a tangent. Bruce doesn't say anything out of the but I was at ESPN for a few years, and I sat down and did an interview when he was with the Galaxy. We had our ESPN game for that, and he turns to me and goes, "Hey, Max." I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Just want to say how proud I am of you for what you've accomplished. To get through to ESPN and one of us soccer guys, that's no minor detail." This isn't absolutely paraphrase. So congratulations.
That's a pretty good impression.
Like, wow, thanks, Bruce.
Wait, you said you don't do an impression.
And I read his book as a return, and which was an easy read.
Oh, okay. You just said you didn't do a Bruce impression, and then you did one.
Yes. I could do a Bruce. What's going? You're kicking tail and taking names at ESPN.
All right. Well,
but that sounds like something else. This studio's amazing, by the way. Did I gloss over that?
Can you use your Bruce to segue us to the actual match?
Time to see how me and the New England Revolution did against the LAFC at Bank of California. Everything it blends into. It's gonna sound like Sean Connery in a couple seconds.
Well,
so
Max, you were there this match. I was there, obviously. I was there at the match before. If I had to target one big theme, it was this LAFC team needs to clean up some mistakes that they're doing. And the other thing is, be ready for when teams are going to play you differently.
Slow start.
So people were asking me, like, what is going on? Why is the New England Revolution, who I think are going to be a good team?
I think they're going to be the second best team in the East.
Yeah.
I think. They're just a solid team. They got a great goalkeeper. They have the best goalkeeper in the league. I think they have the best American goalkeeper. Yeah. And then you have these pieces, and like Polster and Buxa score these goals. Those are guys that I think they're really leaning into. Mm-hmm. So they show they have more than just that core group of players. So it's going to be a good team. That said, that's a bad habit to get. It's preseason, and you take it at face value for what it is. But it was something we've seen in other games that you need to curtail. I would add, and we can continue, that's obviously a big point. I will add that LAFC, and it may be fun for the supporters, it may not be. It's going to be, as we've seen in the past, such a fun watch. That was Autobahn, end to end. And the Revolution did their part. They kind of went after it as well. But watching the combinations, and once they start to click, for better or worse, it's going to be a real fun watch. And I think they're going to have their hiccups along the way. It's going to be a challenging season. There are less teams that you can just go in and get 3 points against. I think the bottom lifted up in MLS, so it's going to be tricky. Like San Jose, Vancouver, these are teams that LAFC is going to play with some frequency. They're not teams that are going to let you kick them around because they had a very serious offseason.
Yeah, I mean, to steal the Jurgen Klopp term, it's going to be some heavy metal football, right? And it's going to look good. The theme was, if you want like a theme, obviously there was mistakes that were made that led to goals, but it was this. In that first game, LAFC actually came out really hot, and they looked really good. They couldn't score a goal. Second half, the Revs decide we're going to press, and LAFC's not ready for it. The second game, the Revs decided we're going to press right from the get-go, and LAFC's not ready for it. So they need to understand that the game is going to be played in different ways. I actually hate this phrase, you have to earn the right to play, but I guess it makes sense. All coaches use it. And that was what LAFC didn't do. They thought they could come out, they're going to just pass the ball around. And in the second game especially, it's a little too casual. A little too casual, standing in your spots. I mean, they come out and press. And, of course, if they're going to press, they're going to press your number one distributor, who's Edward Atuesta. And you have Mark Anthony Kay, who had just come back from international duty. So, yes.
And out of quarantine as
and
well.
Out of quarantine.
It was like 4 or 5 days. Yeah, so it's less than ideal.
He's working up to speed, but he knows the way it goes. He knows the rotations. He knows the movements that need to be made. But him and Latif, initially, a little slow to change their angles, to give some out balls. And then, like I said, they're just too casual. And New England's going to be a good team. They can finish. They've got some players like Carlos Heel, Bo, Busca, who he grew in the season. They know what they're doing now. They know their roles. Bruce has been there long enough. Tejan Buchanan's good. If that's gonna happen, you're gonna get put to the sword. But to your point, thankfully, LAFC has some guys that can claw it back.
It's going to be a weird season because you're going to see one Eastern Conference team after this scrimmage, I guess we could call it, against the Revs. They play Atlanta in the regular season. Otherwise, it's all West.
And City.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. And so it's very, what you see there is like how much can you take apart from that to go to the next stage where you're going to play familiar foes. And Bob we're going to talk to, and he'll be the first to say you don't want to take too much. This was a chance to kind of go through the motions, but I was generally optimistic. The bad start is something you hope they alleviate. There is bad starts with set pieces. I think I wanted to see a little bit more. We didn't get a good look at that, but we'd like to see how they do that. With Murillo in there, that's going to be an upgrade. We saw it at the back end of the season as well. I like the space they made in the midfield eventually to get the fullbacks up or whoever were going on. We saw a lot of guys moving forward. Cheeky, we're still waiting for the crosses, but he got up there, and even more so Tristan, and there was space for those guys. There was a good opportunity. The other thing I'd watch is how Corey Baird combines with Rossi and Vela. That was great. They look like a well-oiled machine. It doesn't mean that's your starting three. I would tend to think it is. We saw Mahala come in. Danny Masovsky was there at the end of the year. We would imagine all those guys will play a big role in a condensed, packed-in, very busy calendar. I just think the machinations from the attacking group was fantastic. We all have to assume the defensive wherewithal, they're working on it, and they'll get that. But obviously, you can't fall behind games.
Well, when the group is turned on, like you can see it. And you're like, oh, these guys are really good. And you see what we saw during the Champions League. It was kind of the exact same thing we saw throughout last season. It was like, this team is so much better than some of the results. But that when they dial in and they're able to dial in for a majority of the game, they're almost unstoppable. So you could see that in preseason. I would say my other good thing from it was your reference to Corey Baird. I thought the front three were very interesting. I mean, you've got Diego.
That's an interesting choice of words.
Yeah, they're interesting because you've got Diego, and now you've got Corey Baird, who is very different than Brian Rodriguez. Brian wants the ball at his feet. He wants to dribble past guys. Corey does not mind doing the dirty work, and he doesn't mind doing those extra runs to try to get behind defenders. He's willing to run past guys all day. Even if he goes offside and it doesn't get used, it creates other openings. And I think any defense that now says, okay, so we got to plan for Carlos Vela to have the ball in front of us and do his magic, and you got to plan for Diego Rossi and Corey to just break at any moment and take off behind you, that's a difficult ask.
Corey Baird's going to be that game changer because he's been given that space. Will he score a lot of goals? I don't think they're going to put down on his shoulders too much. But as you saw, he assisted on the Rossi goal, the interchanges. He looks really happy to be here. He's like, this is
Wouldn't you be?
Great, of course, but it's not for. We've had players at LAFC that just didn't quite seem happy. It wasn't their thing.
Yeah.
LAFC's not for everyone. Corey Baird strikes me as a guy who goes, this is exactly where I want to be. Look who I'm playing with. And those two guys, both were arguably the best two players in the league. There's no argument about Vela in 2019. Diego Rossi, amongst the best players. But you could argue he was the MVP because of what he did offensively, missing Carlos Vela for large portions of the season. It really works if you get that third guy. We've had guys in there that have worked at different looks, more traditional or false nines in many cases. Mm-hmm. This is just a complementary piece. It's very much like the other two pieces. in a lot of ways, and he can stretch the field. So he's happy there. It's when it happened as an acquisition, we weren't sure what the team would look. We'll talk about Brian Rodriguez, what happens in the future, because there's going to be another piece, whether it's, who knows, whether Brian or someone else, that's going to help accentuate that as well. But it's you need that. You need depth in this position too. But Corey Baird put his hand up in these preseason games, and you got to be excited about it. We hope for the best. We got it.
Excellent segue, depth. Should we go? Should
Let's
we go
go
into what we think?
We've been wanting to do a depth chart for 2 months.
We've been talking about a depth chart since literally we put this partnership back together, and we were like, oh, we can shoot some things together. Max and I, we can be buddies again. And now we finally get to do it. It took forever, but we finally get to do it.
I don't want to be messy.
No,
here.
we haven't been friends, Jason, this entire time. We've been frenemies, and now we're back.
Yes, I'm going to do a top 5 list of LAFC employees that bug me, and you might be moving up them charts, my friend, the way you're going.
I'm working on it.
All right, I have my official.
Oh, your official
long
depth chart.
form.
Yeah.
It's
Go
not
ahead and show it to
official.
the camera.
Don't show it.
Okay.
So you want me to
We're done.
start?
Yeah, go for it.
So we saw a little Pablo Cisniega in the preseason. We saw a little Kenneth Vermeer. So goalkeeping, Kenneth Vermeer ended the season. He played that last preseason game. I would think he would probably be the one, but this is still a competition.
That's the hottest battle, right?
That's a hot battle. And it has to hit. This is important. Tyler Miller was the guy. Vermeer was brought in. Pablo Cisniega is this super talented goalkeeper with his best years ahead of him. You're grooming him to be a number one here. But it's important with what's happening and what we talked about to have a rock back there and one who can play in this system. Goalkeepers are almost an outfield player in many ways for this team.
Well, who's your pick? Like
to start?
Let's just start crossing friends off our list. Who do you pick to start?
I think it's Kenneth. I think Cisniega could be the starter at some point sooner than later in this season, depending on how Vermeer's start is.
If you had your choice, if you were Bob Bradley, is Pablo who you're saying you would start?
I've always said it's a young man's game. It's always a young man's game. So I would start Pablo Cisniega if it was me.
Okay.
If it wasn't Bob. If it was me. Because I think the growth is there. The tools are there. He's still young. He makes mistakes. But we see young goalkeepers get these opportunities and they settle into it. I would think it's Pablo because if he'd be the long-term candidate unless they're going to go a different direction. And they have Tomas Rincon, who's going to be observing, could be an interesting guy, Olympian for El Salvador. That's a good position to be. We don't know. But Pablo's the guy I think they've invested the most, and I would probably start him.
I tend to lean Pablo too, and it's not because I don't want to cause controversy. It's just at the end of the day, you need a goalkeeper that you can say every game or so, please save a goal from us. That's going to happen, a for sure thing goal. And Pablo just does that a little bit more. Now, his distribution has not been good in preseason, and he knows that. I don't think I'm talking out of school in that. It's almost like if you could take Kenneth and Pablo and put them together, you would have a perfect goalkeeper. But that seems to be LAFC's problem since the jump, since 2018. I think what Bob's looking at though is Kenneth in those big games, at the end of the year Champions League, did save some goals and was back to the heights of what you would expect a goalkeeper to do. But if I had to go based on
penalties,
if I had to go based on track record, Pablo's the guy that game in game out he makes that extra save that maybe wipes half a goal off the board or something like that. But yeah, this is still the hottest battle. I feel like the rest of the spots are falling into place pretty easily. There's something in the midfield that I feel like we could talk a little bit about.
And this is a depth chart, and there's going to be a lot of games, so guys are going to get games. I would say with Pablo, if he was, say he's the second goalkeeper here, there's going to be 15 teams in the league that say, I think he could probably start for us. We'd love to have him in there. He's that good.
He's not international.
Yeah, he's got so many, and now he knows the league, so he makes a lot of sense for a lot of teams to go right in at number 1.
Yeah.
So we'll go to those are the top 2.
Yeah.
You could sit there and say I'll play some games here and there, but you want to be the featured guy, especially he's 26.
You can't do goal if you do goalkeeper by committee, then you don't have a number 1 goalkeeper.
Yeah, it's like running backs in football.
Yeah.
Someone's going to be like,
I think quarterbacks, not running backs.
It's kind of like doing a podcast. At some point, someone's going to say, I'm the guy here.
Yeah, someone's definitely taking our spot soon.
No, I'm talking about me being the guy. That was a shot at you. I was just kidding. Wow, that just fell flat. Should we just stop the show now?
Yeah, I'm out.
Defenders. I'll go with the 4.
Go to defenders of the bank. That's
defenders
what you
of the
bring
bank.
them in here. You're out,
Love
Max.
those guys.
I'll bring them in.
Philly in the scarf.
Right, go to defenders.
So defenders, we'll go with the back 4 that started. Eddie Segura, who I think we could say is going to be competing for best defender in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus Murillo, who's a nice complementary piece, big and physical. He looked massive out
I
there.
mean, complimentary to Eddie, but not just a complimentary piece. I would say he's going to challenge for best defender in the league.
Possibly. Eddie can do so many things as a defender.
He's steady Eddie.
But he's almost like not a defender. He can be the uncompromising center defender. He can be this passing player. He scored some goals. He scored some good goals.
He scored a very nice goal against New England.
And there's these things where we're just scratching the surface for the kind of defender. He's a very modern guy with the way he does it.
That wrinkle of also, I know you're going to get to him because he's at right back now. But that wrinkle of sometimes Tristan, it could be Tristan, Murillo, and maybe to finish out a game, Eddie takes that 6th spot, and you really shut down a game. They did that a couple times last season. I could see it happening more.
So if we're talking about depth chart, we'll just because of number-wise, number 1 defender is Eddie.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, we'll say Jesus Murillo.
Mm-hmm.
And then the left back was Chiqui. He's going to be the left back. We need left-sided players.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been very in the Champions League, CONCACAF Champions League, and here very excited about his development. Still has that way to go, but he gets in behind defenders very nicely. And then Tristan at the right back. He'll probably be the right back because Kim Moon-Hwan not 100%.
He will definitely start as the right back, right? Kim Moon-Hwan is just physically behind Tristan, and that's not his fault. He's been injured. So yes, Tristan. But to Tristan's credit, he's played well in the preseason, and also going back to the Champions League. I continue to harp on. I think the choices that are going to be made going forward also has a lot to do with the Champions League and how well guys played. You get rewarded. It's like that was your best team. Why wouldn't you roll them out there to start the season again?
Tristan could end up being one of the 2 or 3 most important players on this team because he'll cover the right back. He's going to cover the center backs.
Mm-hmm.
And really, Jordan Harvey could come in at center back. It's not really his natural position. You're going to have to go to a younger player other than that to come centrally.
Mm-hmm.
I think Tristan's going to put out a lot of fires in both those positions as he's doing now on the right back. As Kim Moon-Hwan, who was brought in to be the starting right back, has to get ready and get to the physical level and adjusted to this game. In the meantime, Tristan's going to eat up these minutes. And at the end of the season, he might be at one of these positions playing a significant role. I wouldn't doubt it. And look, he's in the mix for the U.S. men's national team. He got into a camp. It was ended by an injury, but he got into the camp. So you have 4, but we got to look at the cover. And
you already brought up Kim,
Marcus
cover
came in,
or really fighting for that.
But both fullbacks. And that's it. That was like the core 6 guys I think we can mention. 7 if we include Jordan Harvey.
Yeah.
And then it's not the deepest group.
So it's MLS. It's a salary cap. You have 7 defenders that you can count on at any moment. That's more than most teams have. I mean, most teams aren't too deep in every position. I feel like LAFC really is too deep at every position.
I think at the fullbacks, you're doing great.
Yes.
You got 4 guys that you could pop in there and say, we feel good.
Center back, you're counting on some guys to move around.
I guess that was the point. I don't want to say it was too deep, but the center back could be it. And that could be an issue. Certainly how we saw LAFC could see some goals early in the season. Not so much in the Champions League, but we'll get to that. Should we go? Is that good? Should we go to midfielders?
Yeah, I think it's okay.
Midfielders, it's an embarrassment of riches.
Yeah.
You got a guy like Sifu who comes off the bench who could start for all 27. Is it 27 MLS teams? 26 MLS teams.
I like that you went right to Sifu because I think there will be 45 teams in the MLS.
45. There will be soon enough, especially when we combine with Liga MX.
You went right to Sifu. I do think that the
I just wanted to make a point.
Well, no, the group that we're used to seeing is probably going to start the season. Mark, Edouard, Latif.
Twisted looked like he was playing a little deeper than usual in that scrimmage. I mean,
because they were pressing them, and, he was dropping in between the center backs. But I think Sifu is going to wrangle that job, and no difference to Latif. Latif had an up and down year like a lot of players. I mean, this is not. I'm not bagging on anyone. Almost the entire team had an up and down year, besides, let's say, maybe Diego Rossi. But Sifu just brings a different element, an extra bit of dribbling, of physicality, of shooting. I think his passing is pretty spot on. Latif is a great passer. Obviously can control the ball really well. But Sifu's my guy that I believe will be a breakout player, not just for LAFC, but in the league. Like, the league is going to look and go, oh,
I like that shout. He has all the tools. And you said up and down. He had some big ups and some big downs since arriving at LAFC. The gap has certainly shrunk with that. The fitness is up. And it'd be hard. And Latif, because of his utility skills, which are going to bail the club out, it may move to him. I think Bob and the coaching staff, in a pinch, when they want that, they're going to go to Latif because they know what he brings.
Yeah, imagine bringing Latif off the bench.
But I think as a starter, I think they know what he brings as a starter, and they say, we feel safe with that trio, and it's tried and tested. But you've got to find Sifu. We have 2 utility players now. So how would you rate them? You have Tristan Blackman, who's going to move. And I say utility with the utmost respect because it's really important to have guys who can slot in here. Tristan, who's going to play, let's just call it guys who can play multiple positions.
Yeah.
And then Latif.
I'm going to give it to Tristan just because I think he can do both positions at a high level. I really like Tristan as a center back. I hope they find a way to continue his development as a center back.
And Bob always said that's his number one position.
Look, they compare him to Sergio Ramos, and I know a lot of people want to laugh and say that, but like you watch some things that he does, some athletic plays that he makes, and it is very Sergio Ramos-like. He's not your customary, he's not a Puyol, a defender that just kind of does the defensive things. I mean, he does some wild stuff. It works out for him. You kind of pull your hair out because you're like, oh God, please don't do that again. But when it works, it's really cool.
We're gonna have a great first new
Latif,
new podcast here. We're gonna have a first new podcast, and the soundbite that's gonna come here is you comparing Tristan to Sergio Ramos. You know it's coming your way.
I'm fine with that.
Good. I have no problem with that.
I give it to
I know
Tristan.
what you're saying because we all say it because he kind of reminds you of this guy.
I give it to Tristan over Latif only because, and I think Latif actually plays a fine right back when he wants to.
But will he play right back now that you have?
I hope not.
Kim Moon Hwan, you have Farfan. I mean, where you're going to put those guys in front because they are right backs by trade.
Latif's utility roles will be as a winger and as a central midfielder. Again, I think when he plays right back and he wants to play right back, he's a fine right back. But you can tell his mind drifts and he does not want to be in that position. And that's a position where literally you cannot turn off because you have to be attacking 1 minute and literally the ball turns over, transition, especially in MLS, you have to be going back the other way 150 miles an hour.
So I agree with you as well that Tristan's the top multi-positional player as opposed to utility.
Yeah.
Utility is like that guy who
term.
plays for the Orioles and, you know, he play a little center field, a little second base.
Yeah.
Give you a good bunt. We don't want that.
No. It's Harold Reynolds.
I'm trying to think.
I was trying to think of one like Damian Easley. Let's see. When I was a kid, I'm naming like all Angels players.
Who's it?
Gary Schofield.
God, do you have like baseball cards in your back pocket?
I
can smell the gum
kid.
from here.
Yeah, sorry. Big League Chew. Best gum ever.
Did you ever put the entire Big League Chew in your mouth at once?
Of course, I was a kid.
Oh my God, that was such an accomplishment.
I can't remember at what age though I finally realized that like, oh, this is priming kids to chew tobacco.
Not me, because I'd get that glob and I'd stick it under my school desk, and then the teacher would find out and go, "Oh my God, what is this?" There's like 4 giant alien globs of gum under the desk, and then I claimed it was someone else from another period.
You were a troublemaker, right?
Not really.
No?
I was a bit of a class clown. It wasn't a trouble.
Straight A kid?
No, I wasn't a straight A kid.
Okay.
I was a terrible student.
Oh.
I just kind of. I
never
think I'd be a great student
Never would have
today.
guessed that.
If I went to school today, I'd be a great student.
I sure hope so.
I know everything. I know the answer to this one.
If as a grown man I could go back to 3rd grade, I'd kill it.
Yes. So let's go back to the midfield. So the depth chart, the depth chart is Kea, Tuesta, and Latif starting.
Mm-hmm.
Afterwards, we saw Sifu. He slides in, so he will be the number one for now, and I think he would go there. Pancho very late came on. He's played a lot of minutes. They have high expectations. Big name South American player coming here. He's going to play. And
playing more as a 6 in preseason, thank God.
Look, he's another one who had a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah. I just think that that's his position. He's a player that he's a pretty slick passer.
Doesn't have the physical
tools
that everyone else here probably does.
Yeah, as an 8, as a guy further up the field that has to have those reactions, he's shown that he's not quite at that level. Maybe he can get there. I don't know. I don't know if that's something that you can acquire, but I would prefer him in the 6th position.
Maybe instead of that expression that's so popular with Cockney slang, with they're in 6s and 7s, we should change to 6s and 8s.
Sure.
It's more.
It drives me wild when Arlo uses that on Premier League. Like,
you want to talk about some of the Englishisms?
No, we'll do that. We'll save that for another podcast. I love that he drops it just to let everyone know, hey, I'm English.
Absolutely is a word that is much more emphasized in England than in our country.
Yeah.
So, and also starting sentences with "shall we?"
Oh, we shall. That's so. Yeah, you're right.
I go, "Shall we?" I go, "Well, I guess." Actually, no, we shall not.
You asked so nicely.
Bryce Duke. Still young.
Also depth. Yep.
A guy who they've put a lot of time in developing, and they develop players well. And I think he is going to be in that core group on the outside looking in, just because of all the talent that's there.
Yeah, might spend some time getting some polishing in Vegas.
Vegas?
I mean, he needs minutes. A lot of these guys need minutes because, as we've just said,
and their games are being played by Vegas. Some of the LAFC guys are playing games in Vegas. So
this midfield group is hard to crack into, but they're too talented to just be sitting around, and they're too young to just be sitting around. They need to get minutes.
Vegas road trip?
Of course.
110football/MVP.
Well, you already talked to Steve Cherundolo. He's like, you guys are best buddies, right?
Yeah.
Can we sit on the bench? You think?
I think so. Yeah, I'll see what he can do. I go, hey, Steve.
Can we get one of those crazy Vegas jerseys?
I'm not a jersey guy. I'll wear LAFC jerseys. I don't wear anything else.
Yeah,
I know, but I don't wear jerseys. I
know you're all Adidas out today.
My friend used to wear hockey jerseys. I mean, hockey's is a dead end sport.
It's a sweater.
Yeah, it's a sweat. Whatever. Hockey's going to be off the face of the earth. I'm just saying this because our producer is a hockey guy.
You made a hockey reference the other day on something, and I was very surprised. On Libertadores, you made a hockey reference, and I was like, why is Max making a hockey reference? First of all,
penalty box?
No, I can't remember what you made, but I was like, first of all, definitely not the group
Independiente del Valle is icing the
I think it was you and Nigel Rio Coker. You guys do it from separate rooms, right?
No, we're in the same room.
Oh, he must have looked at you like, what?
He's come a long way. We're proud. We're very proud of the development that he has had. So yeah, I always take jabs at hockey because I have so many people who are hockey guys. I'll tweet yesterday. When does the hockey season start? Like, oh, I'm out here. I know.
Jason's telling you.
I should be happy. My hometown team, the Florida Panthers, are crushing it.
My hometown team. Move on to the forwards.
Forwards
a hockey term.
Also. I mean, this is a glorious list, no?
Yeah.
Of forwards. I mean, this is an embarrassment of riches. They got cover if things go hairy.
As long as guys stay healthy. Obviously, if you lose a guy like Carlos Vela, you go down a notch, but somehow Diego Rossi just goes bananas.
Let me ask you this, because I know people listening are going to go, hey, what's going to go with Carlos Vela? This talk, hey, he might play in the Gold Cup. What reason would you think, based on anything that's happened since the 2018 World Cup, what would suggest that he would say yes to do that? I don't know what Carlos is thinking, but he seems content beyond belief in his love of a club man. This is a perfect guy to have. Maybe he does. And he, by all means, he goes, I want to represent my country again. I don't think so.
No. Look,
that's why he is a perfect player to have.
Yeah, our friends in the Mexican media, they love these stories because this is clicks. This is what they do. They like just jabbing at Carlos. And I think he loves that now. It's like, I hold all the power. You have no idea. One, the Mexican media has no idea what he said to Tata. And I know that they've had we know that they've had conversations, and they've probably settled it, right? Him and Tata Martino. They probably have a gentleman's agreement on how this is going to go. But at the same time, look, it's the Mexican national team. He takes pride in it. So you're not going to just say, no, absolutely, I'll never be there. But no, he wants to play for LAFC. Loves the quality of life.
It's a quality of life, Vince.
Yeah.
I think more players are going to do it. And with the pandemic, international play has taken a whole new other turn where you're like, I mean, I'm not saying people aren't going to do it, but I think once you get into like the 30s, and you're with my family, I'm happy.
If there was a World Cup this summer, we might have a different conversation.
Yes.
But it's the Gold Cup. No offense to the Gold Cup. I will watch it and I'll enjoy it, but no.
And will they be first team Mexico, U.S.? I don't think it's going to be a first team U.S. men's national team.
No, I mean, a lot of it, all the impetus is on qualifying.
Yes. And that Nations League, which I think right before I think those are going to be the senior teams. Gold Cup will be a little bit alternative, which still be good teams.
Yeah.
So the four. So we have Vela, number one. Number one.
Yeah.
The Duke, the Duke of New York City, number one. You know where that's from?
No.
Escape from New York.
Oh,
so you're the Duke,
sorry.
number one.
I said we were going to watch Dune. We were going to talk about Dune a lot. The other movie, Escape from New York. We will talk about that.
That's my favorite movie of all time. So Vela, right. Rossi looks like he's got an axe to grind, right?
Rossi was fantastic
He was riding the referee. What was the moment that you saw that we doubled over laughing?
He went to shoulder to shoulder with Henry Kessler, who was much bigger than him. Knocked Henry off, and it was 50-50. Maybe it was a foul, but he got called for a foul. Swung around and immediately just yelled, "Okay!" And then ran to the referee, yelled, "What did I do?" And then the whole time Henry Kessler sat there like this. bro,
Can I have my hand up
bro? And then
for our audio listeners?
then he held his hand up, and the assistant referee had to pick him up. And I wish Diego actually would have slapped his hand away again. Why would I pick you up? I'm not your friend.
The referee ended up picking him up.
Yeah,
But he looks angry.
I like
dialed
an
in.
angry Diego because it means he's going to go out there. He's going to give his all. I mean,
Oh.
he knows what the next step is. He knows that if there would not have been a pandemic, probably wouldn't be here.
Listen, Carlos Vela's number 1, but Diego Rossi has the capabilities to be the most important LAFC player by season's end. He dusted some guys with his pace, and he looks like he's looked like he has slippers on and he's jogging, but he's not. And he just rips by guys. They were playing balls in. Diego Rossi is entering his best life right now as a football player.
He's also looking really fit. I don't know if it's those workouts with Gaston Reynoso or what, but he is cut.
Gaston Reno?
Oh, is it Reno?
Oh, the
Reynoso.
MMA guy?
Gaston Reno?
The MMA guy?
Is it Reynoso or Reno?
Tonga. Gaston Reno, and his nickname is Tonga.
It's not Reynoso.
Who's Gaston Reynoso?
I thought
Are you
he was
talking
an
about the
MMA
MMA
guy.
fighter?
Yeah.
Stop correcting me. It's Gaston Reno.
It's Reno.
Reyno.
Okay.
Dude, I'm in with the
Not
Uruguayans.
Reynoso.
I have chivitos with them all the time.
Well, at media day, Diego Rossi said Valverde as his five-a-side team, and I was like, Ernesto? And he goes, what? And I was like, yeah, why would you pick a coach of – he goes, no, Federico Valverde. I was like, of course.
Yeah. I was actually talking to Gaston Reno the other day. We're talking about Uruguayan football, and Fernando Muslera, who may be looking for a rebirth.
He's still in Turkey?
He's still in Turkey, making piles of money.
Whoa.
Great.
Then why would you
We
leave?
were talking about how much money, but this is a goalkeeper that may be looking
Don't start those rumors.
All right. That was Gaston's thought.
Yeah.
That was my – okay, so Vela Rossi, we'll put Barrett at number 3 because he started. We talked about Corey. Then we'll see Mahala. He came in. Danny Masovsky, who finished the season, brings a different skill set that others can't as a more traditional center forward type.
Just that willingness and grit to be in the right place at the right time.
But if you bring in Masovsky for Barrett, it's going to create a
I love Masovsky as another option off the bench. A guy that's just a goal getter, like a kind of garbage goal, a Filippo Inzaghi type character, born offside. I love that type of guy.
But he's more. It's going to be you're going to have to change the way you look if you bring him in because he's not really like Corey Barrett. Mahala, kind of more like Corey Barrett, where it wouldn't be a shock to Rossi, or it wouldn't change how Rossi and Vela play. Masovsky may get a little further up. He doesn't have the pace of that third either, Mahala. So it's a little change in system in that sense. I don't know how that affects him in the big picture because maybe they want a different look.
No, yeah, Mahal is a type of guy like Corey, like Diego, like Carlos that he likes the ball at his feet. He can do some things to create his own shot. Danny is definitely get him on the end of that final pass. So yes, you change up just slightly the way you play because Danny's a finisher.
Christian Torres,
Wild card.
Really, wild card could be the heir apparent to what Corey Barrett is doing sooner than we think. They're developing. He's 16, going to be 17.
Yeah, looks to get bigger and bigger every time I see him.
16 and 17, you don't wait for those guys anymore. If they have the goods, you put them in. It's happening all over the world.
He's already scored an MLS goal.
Scored an MLS goal. So if he continues on that trajectory and he's got to hit those spots, he's going to be in there.
Yeah, and another guy that's going to get a little bit of polishing and finishing in Vegas. Get a little bit of I always look at the USL and go back to hockey. It's like the lower levels of hockey, like
the ECHL. What is it called?
A little bit of goons in there that are going to rough you up a little bit, and you need a little bit of that. You don't want them to get hurt and to get never want to play again.
What's a good minor league town for hockey?
Oshawa? Windsor, Ontario.
Thunder Bay.
Yeah. Yes.
Regina.
Pipe in, Jason. You're the hockey fan. What do you got?
I know. He says Saskatchewan.
Minor league hockey.
Thunder Bay.
Yeah, Thunder Bay is great.
What's a good U.S. side one? Duluth.
Hartford Wolfpack. That's Jason's pick. Hartford Wolfpack.
Yeah.
To replace their precious Whalers.
I think we covered it. We had Raheem.
Raheem is another guy that's like on the outs there because he came through. Obviously, he had to get some green card issues, and he's just now gotten there, so he's behind it physically. But he's another guy that I think he's a talented dribbler. He's a talented winger type. Could probably even play a little bit in midfield. So he's stacked through the midfield, stacked in the forward lines.
And we'll give Cal Jennings a shout because that's what happened to Masovsky. He came over from USL, and now He got some games, so why not Cal Jennings?
Yeah.
So you can see and again, it's a long season. They'll be playing 2 games a week a little bit later, thankfully, in the summer. So be prepared.
We haven't even looked ahead to the game.
Let's talk about the game.
Let's
briefly.
do that. Let's do that quick. Yeah.
Briefly, Austin
we don't
FC, and their first year, just like last year, we're playing the new guys.
Mm-hmm.
It was a bit of a grind against Inter Miami. I think people.
I mean, that's probably the thing we can say more than anything. I do like,
but it was coming off the Leon game, so there was
too.
a bit possibly
Yeah,
a bit
they were
of
a little
letdown.
little tired legs, but you're well aware of how an expansion team wants to start the season.
How good would it be for them to start these? Because our first game at Seattle will never be forgotten,
mm-hmm.
and we don't know for sure how to quantify it, but it feels like it was a foundation stone that we
mm-hmm.
still put our feet on every now and then.
Yeah.
So it'd be big for Austin.
Going into this game, this is maybe harking back to that New England game. Don't come out thinking that you're just going to be able to play. You should know, because you've played in these games yourself, and then you were on the other side of it against Miami. Again, maybe slightly tired legs, but an expansion team, more so than their ideas, they're going to come out and they're going to get at you. They're going to close the space. They're going to be tight to you. So there should be no excuses for LAFC in this game. They should know right from the get-go that this team is going to press you a little bit. They have a little bit more talent, I think, than the Miami team.
So you made that mention to me. So talk about it, because they did it. It looks like they did it a pretty savvy way to build this roster.
Yeah, the roster build looks pretty good. They got they got that good mix of experience, but not too far along. MLS guys like Ring, I think, is a great choice to be. He's probably going to be their captain.
Number 6, you just lock it in. You get that 6th guy who can do it. Ring's a great guy to have.
You need a guy that can sew your team together, right? The last thing that a expansion team puts together is its balance, the way it stitches together its defense and its offense. And Ring is that type of guy. And then you got some great talent up top. Who knows how well they'll click? But again, you know what they're going to do. They're going to grind and they're going to press you a little bit and they're going to get tight to you. So you don't give them freebies. Don't give them the ball 30 yards from goal, because Rodney Redes, Dominguez, even Pochettino, even Danny Houston a little bit. I mean, we haven't seen him be at his best level, but they can score goals if you give them freebies.
I don't know if they're going to score goals. I don't think they'll give them freebies, but Ben Sweat, Nick Lima, good fullback play.
Decent.
Pochettino, a good find for them. They went off the beaten path to get him. And everyone I speak to in Argentina say this is a really good player. He was at Talleres. And then Rodney Redes and Cecilio, they went the Paraguayan route. And Paraguay you got to keep an eye. They're creating some good players, and the Argentine pipeline might be a little dried up. So go Paraguay, go Peru, go Colombia.
Well, we've heard
Colombia's dried up.
We've heard John Thornton talk about it. He's like, now when I go to Uruguay, I'm not the only one going there anymore. Right? So he knows. And then now Paraguay might be the next step. Argentina's always been a hotbed of talent, so everyone's always there.
Brazil, not so much, because they're too expensive.
Too expensive, too spread out, and too hit or miss.
All right, so we stay. So wait, but to me, this feels like a 1-0 LAFC victory again. I think it's going to be a grind.
It's going to be a grind. It's going to be tight.
Which is fine.
Right.
But
you don't want it. But to your point, as much as Austin would love this to be a cornerstone to their season, don't give it to them.
Best of luck to everyone there. Adrian Healy, Michael Lahoud, who will be in the broadcasting. We look out for each other.
Good guys, yeah.
I got down to Austin last week, saw the stadium from afar. It looks great.
When I was cutting
not in the center of town.
Well, when I was cutting my teeth,
which would have been great.
Doing free blogging to try to get into this game. Michael Lahoud was one of the first people I interviewed at Chivas USA. Good dude.
Speaking of Austin, rank the Highwaymen from 1 to 4. Tell me your favorite to last. So Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, Chris Christopherson, Johnny Cash. Go.
I love Waylon.
Waylon won. No doubt about it. Waylon's won. Willie or Johnny Cash?
Willie and Cash, and then Christopherson. My bad.
I can't
Sorry,
believe
buddy.
Johnny Cash 3, Chris Christopherson 4th. But it's just it's like
Christopherson knows he's 4. Right?
He does. Great songwriter.
Yeah.
Best actor of the 4, Chris Christopherson.
Oh, without a doubt. Just for his cameo in Pee-wee.
Last thing, because we want to get to the Bob Bradley interview.
Yeah.
And I knew we'd go. I like how you wrote this like it was going to last 10 minutes. What have you been on here for, like 90 minutes?
No, I wrote it. So that knowing that we would go longer, but to try to not pretend like we should just talk forever. And we did.
Austin FC will be good, not a playoff team. They'll have a good year.
Yeah, it's tough in the West.
LAFC expectations overall.
1 or 2.
In the West.
1 or 2.
Who will be the team that presses? I think they will probably be 1 or 2.
Portland seems a little interesting.
I think Portland.
Yeah.
I think Portland. San Jose is going to be uppity this year, but they're not going to be at the top. I think Seattle comes down a rung.
Depending on how they recover from not having Jordan Morris. If they can get some results and then maybe get Jordan back. I don't think they will most of the season, or get somebody to replace him.
Minnesota is another one that could.
I don't trust Minnesota.
I don't trust Minnesota. It really, when you look at it, I think it's LAFC, Portland.
Yeah.
The Texas teams.
And I like Abila, but
Sporting Kansas City.
They
didn't really do a whole lot.
Their schedule was so skewed to play not as good teams during that super regional schedule that we had last season. I think when they start to open up and play more teams, they're going to get.
Let's shoot it down the line. Let's say Portland 1 in the West, LAFC 2. That'll be our call.
You just hedging your bet? Because I'm going to say LAFC 1.
Well, because we work for LAFC, and then I want to say like.
Right. But I still
have
a lot of friends on the LAFC team, so LAFC 1.
I'm just trying to make it interesting. Oh, well done.
Yep.
Again, I could sit here. Where's the beer?
I know. Next time.
We
start slow. Yeah. For people that don't know, it is 10 a.m. in the morning.
Okay, where's the whiskey?
Come back to my car.
I've
Tee up, Bob.
much less drinking.
You know we have a great guest.
I feel great.
We're gonna have a great
Bob
guest.
Bradley, our first guest. We had to come in big. You can't get any bigger this with LAFC. He's the #1 employee for the club. Everything starts with him. We'll talk about the club. We'll talk about the opener, and we'll get you ready. Max and Vince podcasts on Inside LAFC. We are back. Rate, review, subscribe. Give us the love, and we'll give it back. Back here on the rebirth of Inside LAFC, Max and Vince podcast. We've got this beautiful new set. We had to have the very best possible guest. So Bob Bradley joining us. Bob, we wouldn't have it any other way. And this has to be exciting and challenging, obviously, after a challenging year. What's it like after intensive trainings to get ready for the season to be in a game week for the season opener?
Everyone's very excited. I think it's been a good preseason, but when you get to the final week and everybody's looking forward to a home opener, you can just feel it in the group.
Bob, I know that anytime you look at a roster, you'd say maybe it's never 100% complete, but I'm looking at your roster and I'm seeing a lot of depth. I know you compare players to other players kind of to get analogs of what they're like. Do you ever compare like the teams that you have to teams you've had in the past to kind of say, this team plays a little bit like my 98 Fire team, or what when you stack up this team against teams you've had, what do you see?
I do think that we've added depth, so we're excited. It's made competition really good in training every day. But the final part of exactly how the team evolves comes when you start regular games. Small details in terms of the balance between going forward quickly and still controlling games, our understanding of pressing moments. So there's things that now we'll see as we go through the first weeks of the season, but certainly there's a feeling that we can take different ideas, put them together, and be a team that's hard to play against, a team that's dangerous going forward, things that we've always discussed.
And, Bob, you'll get that opportunity for real games this weekend against Austin FC at Bank of California Stadium. Just like last year, you're starting with a team that is in its first game ever, which obviously limits the amount of tape you guys can have. You can get an idea of a club like this. They're going to look to seize any mistakes LAFC makes. How do you limit those things where you make sure you're watertight and you can get the upper hand in a game of this nature against a new boy here in Major League Soccer?
Yeah, I think every team is thinking that how can they force us into some mistakes? How can they take advantage? They know that we're a team that wants to play from the back. Our decisions about how to do it, how to play over pressure, how to create advantages, the final decisions as we go forward of when to go to the goal and when to make more passes. Those are the things that we are constantly trying to improve. And certainly we know some of the players at Austin from having been in the league. I know a little bit about Josh Wolf, having coached him, and then he's been part of the teams in Columbus and the national team with Greg Berhalter. So we've got some starting points on things that they'll try to do. And as always, we'll try to take our football ideas and put them out there and really go for it.
Bob, you guys obviously earned the right to play at the highest level of competition to end out the year. So you have kind of that luxury built in where you know maybe a little bit more about your team than others do, having spent a lot of time. They had more time off. But I want to ask you, is there any of the newer guys, I know you highlighted after the last preseason game some of the young guys, like Eric Duenas and Tony Loney. Is there any of the newer guys that are pushing to possibly feature for this weekend?
I think Corey Baird has done a good job understanding the way we want to play, developing good relationships on the field with Diego and Carlos. So he gives us good options. He can play from outside in. He can play as a 9. So certainly we're pleased with the progress he's made in preseason. And I think Marco Farfan has picked up things quickly. He's a really good kid. He wants to get better. He works hard in training every day. And so some of the things that are important in the way we play in terms of positioning and as an outside back, every day you can see his wheels spinning as he keeps trying to put things together.
When we look at what happened in the offseason, a lot of compelling storylines, no doubt about it, Bob. For me, at the top of that list is the partnership with the Las Vegas Lights, the partnership now for LAFC SoCal Youth. And this gives you a lot of tiers in developing a squad leading to the first team. So how does this pipe into your vision for how you would love to see LAFC working from top to the kids?
From the start, we wanted to be a team that could connect the first team and the way we played with a second team and academy and how we go about finding and developing talent. And these are really important steps. We've got some young players that I've mentioned throughout preseason, but maybe it's not quite time yet for them to be playing a lot of first team minutes. And so the idea that they're going to be playing regularly with the second team, playing in the same way, that is really important for all of us. So those are really important steps, and I think it's going to go a long way towards the way we can develop players for the first team.
Bobby, talk about new players come in and you guys throw them in the deep end. You give them the whole book and they kind of figure it out on the fly. How does that work with someone like Steve Cherundolo, who's played for you? What's he been like as a coach, kind of being thrown into the deep end with your ideas?
Well, first off, Steve is experienced, and when you're a young coach, the things that you took as a player, that's your starting point as a coach. Now, through his experiences in Germany and the German pro license, he's got some really good starting points. And I think it's important to give him a little time and a little space to put together his ideas with how we also want to play with the first team. But it means that there's really good football discussions every day. He's constantly throwing ideas at us, asking questions. And I think the experience that he has on the field with some of these young guys will be very important for him in terms of developing his ways of implementing ideas.
Bob, you got a small taste of it in the scrimmage with the New England Revolution on the weekend with some supporters there at Bank of California Stadium. Obviously, the last year plus has seen this pandemic, a lot of games in empty stadiums, protocols at every corner. And now we see some light at the end of this tunnel. There will be supporters there this weekend, and certainly it appears that will grow as we head into the summer. What does that mean for you and the club personally, and how are you able to get through that process, knowing the supporters you hope we're going to come back at some point, and it appears to be now?
Well, it means everything to us because from the start, the connection that we have with our fans has been key. Throughout this last year, we honor all of our fans that have played big roles as essential workers, whether that's in different parts of healthcare, law enforcement, deliveries, just doing things that have helped all the rest of us keep going. We also know, sadly, that we lost some great people, some real important members of our LAFC community. And so seeing everybody back in the stadium is going to be special. It's also going to mean that there's some reflection about what we're all doing and how we can continue to grow together. So there's a lot to it, but for all of us, it's going to be an incredible feeling to have some of our best in the stadium with us again.
Bob, I want to thank you. It's my first one back with Max, back on the podcast. So thank you for being our guest finally. We never got to have you when we had the podcast before, but it's an honor to have you come on the podcast on my first one back. So thank you.
He gets the bigger dressing room too, Bob, if you can believe that.
No, Vince is big time. Always has been. And, no, we're proud of you, man. Good luck with it all.
Thank you, Bob. I'm going to clip that, guys. I need that everywhere. Thank you.
Thanks again to Bob Bradley for joining us and his incredible insight as he gets ready for the season opener coming up this Saturday. And thanks to you for joining us on the rebirth of Spinal Tap Mark II. Not Spinal Tap. It is the Max and Vince podcast here.
But it goes to 11.
It goes to 11. I have that movie memorized. We'll also have a lot of cool stuff. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Next up at the Austin game, the virtual tailgate. You can follow it on LAFC app. We're taking a whole new level. The 110 football crew. I'll be joining inside, and we'll get you ready for the game.
Yep. I want to thank Max. Thank you. We're back.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for sticking around and wanting to have me back.
You're my guy, Vince. And I told you that.
Thank you to our producer, Jason Carapesi, for being in our ear.
Thunder Bay's finest.
Thank you to 110 Football for allowing us to do it here in the fabulous fan cave.
Could not ask for a better home.
110 Football, Fridays at noon on YouTube. And
it's a great show. I watched episode 1. This guy's got some great acting chops, by the way.
And not to mention 110 Football, ex-LAFC, part of the virtual tailgate, starting this week at the bank for the Austin FC game.
Didn't I just say that?
Max Bredos, you will be part of it. I'm just adding it on.
You know more about it than I do. I just show up and look pretty. That's my job.
I'm actually, I don't know exactly what we're doing, but I'm showing up and I'm going to nail it.
Subscribe, tell a friend. This is where you're going to be. We will have you as part of the conversation. You can be involved here. Rate, review us, leave us a note. This is your podcast as well. We're just the conduits between you and the club. We'll make it happen. That's all we have. We'll see you next week. And we'll have our full post game from Austin FC. We'll get you ready. We've had the Sounders, right?
Yep. We're back, baby. We're doing this all the time now. So see you next week.
Clase do domingo.
Oh, yes! They knocked on the door.